Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm really excited for the guest that I have on today because it's not often that you get to interview somebody that's gone to the Olympics or is going to the Olympics. And my good friend Rory here is about to embark on that challenge, and I'm excited for him. And I'm excited to hear about his upcoming journey and also about his family as well. So my good friend Rory Linkletter has joined me. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
Appreciate it. Goodness. So I stumbled across your name through two ways. Number one, one of my supervisors, one of my bosses told me, you have to look up this guy. He's a runner. He goes to he went to BYU, and now he's going to the Olympics. You got to look him up and put him on your show.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, I got to look this guy up, and saw what I was impressed by the stuff that I was seeing and some of the videos that oh my goodness. I'm telling you folks, this dude runs like a 1 minute mile. I'm not kidding. Like this guy is fast, like lightning fast. Your fastest marathon, I believe, unless I'm inaccurate in my research, your fastest was 2:08.
2:08 and 1 second.
2 hours and 8 minutes. For you folks out there, a marathon is 26.2 miles. 2 hours and 8 minutes is insane. That is insane. That's how long it takes me to go half a marathon. And he's already done. Uh, I just did the Long Beach Marathon a couple months ago, and it was funny because I think I got to about the 10-mile mark. And what they did is they started, I was doing the half marathon. They were doing the marathon and the half marathon, right? Well, they released all the marathon guys first, and then they released all the half marathon guys like a half an hour later, like 20 minutes later or
Yeah.
something. And the funny thing is, I got about 10 miles in on the marathon. I was about 10 miles in, and I hear this honking noise behind me. And I turn around, and it's a motorcycle cop, and he's telling me to get out of the way because the guy who was in first place, who was hauling butt for the half marathon, was about to pass me. And I was like at the 10-mile mark, and he was about to fly by me. And I was thinking, geez, he's almost done with his half marathon. And I still got another, what, 16 miles to go. 16 miles to go. So yeah, that's fast, man. I'm impressed. Let's kind of dive into that. A little bit of a back history on you, kind of how you got started, things you're doing, how you got into running, all those kinds of things. And then obviously this is a dad podcast, so I want my listeners to hear about your family as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started running in high school. I was a stickball sport player my entire childhood. Just loved everything that was, you know, I could watch on TV. And I remember from the youngest age, I had this deep, deep desire to be a professional athlete. When I was really young, I thought I'd be a hockey player. And then I got a little older, I thought maybe baseball or basketball. And then as I realized my profile wasn't exactly heading in the trajectory of making it to the league. I remember my freshman year of high school, I had a buddy of mine who I grew up playing sports with that was going to try out for the cross country team, show up to the first day of practice. And I didn't even know what cross country was, but this is my good friend here, and he was going to do it. And I wanted to be a part of something at the high school. As a freshman in high school, that's something that everybody wants to be involved as much as they can when they first get there. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try this. Showed up. We did like a 3.5, 4 mile run as a group, and I didn't love it particularly. It wasn't particularly a strong showing for me on that day. The only thing I knew was that, my mom, the day I left for practice the first time and told her what I was doing, it's like 6:30 a.m. all summer long is the practice time. And she was like, there's no way you're going to do this. And I'm the kind of person that, someone tells me I can't do something and I want to prove them wrong. So I kind of stuck with it at first just to kind of, see it through. And I wasn't exceptional, but I was decent enough. And I started to make friends and I started to catch on. Anyways, long story short, I became good at running as a sophomore in high school and started seeing the fruits of my labor and the opportunity to maybe go to university for it, which is where I was recruited by a lot of D1 schools, but I ended up choosing to go to BYU mostly because they were a really good track school. They were a really, really strong program. And they were affordable. So there was two parts of the equation. So I go there, I meet my wife the first day on campus.
No way.
Very
That's awesome.
first day. We're both athletes. She's a gymnast. I was on the track and cross country team, and we talked first day, first class, and it took a little bit, but then the rest is history kind of thing. We go on to compete at BYU, get married after we finish there. I had the opportunity to continue running after college, and we moved to Flagstaff, Arizona, where we live now. Few years into being married, we had an oopsie child, a kid that we weren't planning on having yet, and it changed our life for the better. And we ended up really kind of finding ourselves in this crazy life of parenthood. And then we planned another kid. Like 22 months later, we had another, by on purpose, which is kind of the craziest thing I've probably ever done. And now we've got two kids, and we're headed to Paris this summer, where I'll run the marathon for Canada. I forgot to mention I was born in Calgary, Alberta, grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and now I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. So I'm just heading south just every 5 or so years. I might be in Mexico by the time the next Olympics rolls around.
That's awesome. So you grew up in you grew up in Canada. I have a couple of friends up in Canada. You grew up in Canada, but then moved to Salt Lake and went to BYU. Is faith a big part of your life?
So I actually grew up in Utah. I was born in Calgary. Both my parents are from Calgary. I was born there. I lived there till I was 5, and then my mom actually got remarried and moved to Utah. So that's kind of the story of how I ended up there. Going to BYU though, at the time it was purely like a running decision. That's the crazy
Yeah,
thing. I'm not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
right.
Nor is my wife, actually. Funny enough, we met at BYU as two of the few non-members of the church. But we both are very religious people, I think, spiritual people. Growing up in a place like Utah, and going to a place like BYU, it's just a part of your culture. And it's definitely something that is a big part of who we are now. And funny enough, I think this is probably a common theme amongst your listeners. I would think once you have kids, that part of your life becomes so much more important. I remember expecting our son, our first kid, and just thinking to myself, man, I really need a higher power. I need God in my life even more than ever. And I started doubling down on, showing up to church as much as I could. And I knew that I wanted that to be a part of our family. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's why I asked, because I know I have a lot of friends, associates that, excuse me, that have gone to BYU, but mainly because they were part of the Mormon Church. And I mean, shoot, two of my best friends, my childhood best friends growing up, that I still keep in contact today, are part of the Mormon Church. And so that's why I was just curious. But that's cool. That's awesome that you met your wife. That's a really cool story that you guys met the very first day of college. And you said you got into running just because you wanted to be a part of something with your buddy, and you had no idea what it was about, or if you'd even like it. Uh,
Yeah.
I, it's funny. I like you. We were talking before we started recording. I like you. I couldn't stand running. I was in the military, and we had to run a lot, and I hated it. I hated every part of it. I never ran in high school. I played all kinds of sports. I was on the water polo team. I was on the swim team. I was on the wrestling team. All all through high school. I played baseball, soccer, but I hated running. And we had my wife and I started having kids, and I just thought, I think I want to try to go for a 5K, run a 5K, which is 3 miles. And so I looked into a local running club to see if there was any around, and I found one that was actually pretty close by my house. They were meeting on Saturdays, so I thought, I'll go check it out. And started off to where I was, very shortly after I had joined, was running trying to sign up for as many 5Ks as I could. And then I got to the point where I was like, yeah, maybe I could sign up for a half a marathon. Yeah, that's a long ways. When you're used to just running 3 miles and that's it, going 13 miles is like, what the heck am I thinking, right? But I stuck with this running group and they said, you know what? You don't need to do the half marathon. You need to do the marathon. And Long Beach was my very first marathon. And I thought, you have plenty of time. We're going to train you. You're going to be fine. And I did. I completed it. Now, I wasn't a 2 hour marathon. I was a 5 hour marathon, but I still completed it and I did it and I was excited about it. And ever since then, I've been hooked. And like I told you, I've ran 4 since then. I've got 2 more this year to go. And I just did 5 miles this morning before we started recording this. So it's just something that I appreciate and enjoy. I think because it's a stress reliever for me. It helps me to kind of chill. It helps me to relax. It's funny. You go running, you think you're tired out and all that stuff, which I am, but it actually helps me relax and decompress. Sometimes when I have a bad day at the office or whatever, my wife will say, "Hey, you need to go for a run." Those kind of things where it's just to
Yeah.
decompress. Do you get that sense, or is this just now a passion for you because you're a professional runner now? So is this just now a passion for you to keep going, or do you have that same
Well,
kind of
it's absolutely a passion at this point. But it is absolutely as well an outlet for me. I think through thick and thin, my running in my life has always been a really healthy, I guess, place for me to go and be by myself and be with my thoughts and think. I think I have the most deep conversations with myself and with God when I'm running, because it's just you're undistracted, you're in nature, you're here in Flagstaff, especially yesterday. I had a long run yesterday and I ran 2.5 hours by myself, no thoughts to provoke other than just my movement. And you can kind of get to some weird places when you're
Mm.
moving for that long and thinking for that long and have nothing to distract you but your feet hitting the ground. It's really therapeutic for me. And I think long after I'm competitively running, I think I'll always go for runs because I find that they do that exact thing for me. They decompress me. They give me time to myself. They give me time in nature. They help me think. I think I have my best ideas when I'm out for a run.
Yeah.
I love that time with myself. And sometimes I run with people. Obviously, I'm going to go run with someone after this call. It's also great social. Like, when else in this day and age do you get uninterrupted one-on-one, no technology, no distractions, nothing, but just you and one person? So I think it's a very special tool to connect with yourself and to connect with others.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think it's I don't go running with anybody. The one thing that I have to do when I run is I have to have music in. I see a lot of, guys like you that run these really fast paces and you guys just run without music. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys could do that because I hear my feet hitting the ground. Like I've had my my earbuds go out, like die, and I hear my feet hitting the ground and it completely distracts me. And then my mind starts playing tricks on me like, oh my gosh, you're tired. You need to stop because your feet are pounding on the pavement. How do you do it without music?
Yeah, that's a common difference, I think, amongst certain, like, there's professional runners that run with music every day. So it's not like it's like an exclusive, like, oh, if you're a professional, you don't, or if you're professional, you do. But I do know that there's a lot of people that are entry level, non-professional, that, think headphones are an absolute necessity to the kit when they head out the door. Um, for me, I will grab the headphones probably 2 times a week, just mostly like, hey, kind of not feeling like going for a run. So to get started, I'll throw on a podcast or listen to a playlist. It's usually a podcast for me. I'm a big sports podcast guy, so anytime I can just consume something like that'll help. But yeah, I think I've grown to enjoy that quiet, that
Mm.
that nothingness almost. It's almost like a meditation. Yeah. So yesterday, that was like probably the longest run I've ever done without a single other person, and with no music, no headphones, no nothing, just solo, nothing to distract me, no people, no headphones. And it was cool, honestly. I didn't get bored out there. I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of conversations with myself, and I thought it was a really, really, really positive experience. I left that feeling pretty uplifted.
You prefer trail or road? When you went yesterday, was it trail?
It
Because you're
was
in
trail.
Flagstaff, so
Yeah, yeah, I did a trail route. I would say when I'm just going for the joy of running, like no training purposes, just want to run somewhere, trail is definitely the place for me. So I like being in the mountains. There's something about trail running that just puts you in it. Here in Flagstaff, we have a lot of dirt service roads as well, which are still really cool. But yeah, I mean, I race on the roads, but I definitely enjoy running a trail more than a road. And it depends on this. Like, I like running new places. I like exploring things. So if I'm in a big city, it's sometimes really fun to run through Central Park, which is a road or whatnot, or run along the Charles, which is a bike path in Boston. There's a lot of cool ways to do it. It just depends where you're at. I feel like the peak experience of running in Flagstaff is to get in the trails. So that's my
yeah.
preference.
Yeah, because I run so much, I run, well, probably not as much as you, but I do about 4 days a week is my running routine. And I actually have a professional running coach and everything. Like he gives me the running plan each week and all that kind of stuff. And we check in every single day, literally every single day. We're texting back and forth. And he was, he gives me this, the mileage I need to do each day. And I've been doing that so much, especially the last year. I've been really focused on running because I've wanted to get a lot of these a lot more marathons done. And in December, from December to today, I've lost 65 pounds. Just to give you an idea, I've lost 65 pounds just in the the amount of running that I've been doing. But going around my area so many times, there's only so much area you could cover, right? Like you're in Flagstaff, there's only so much area, so trying to map out different areas in Flagstaff, I think is much easier than me trying to map out like I'm trying to map out a different neighborhood that I can run through. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But trail running it's so different. You're just, and especially if you're by yourself, you're just out there in the woods, the fields, whatever it is, just quietness and by yourself. And sometimes that is relaxing and therapeutic. I think I did a
Yeah.
Spartan race 2 months ago. Did a 6 mile Spartan race, and it was through the mountains of Big Bear here in California. And it it was a challenge, but it was nice because it was just something that I wasn't used to. I'm a road runner, so I just run on the road, and to go off in a trail, that was the first time in probably a couple years that I've been on a trail run. It was fun. It was relaxing. So
Yeah. Well, congrats on losing 65 pounds.
yeah,
That's no
thank you.
small feat.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, let me ask you this. How did that experience come about with you qualifying for the Olympics? What was that feeling like? What was that emotion like? And how excited is your family?
Yeah. So I qualified with my time I ran in Seville, Spain in February this year. I ran 2:08:01, like we mentioned. The Olympic standard was 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 10 seconds. So I got it by 9 seconds, which is, not a ton of wiggle room, but I got it.
Were you expecting to do
And
it? I mean, were you
yeah,
planning on
yeah,
it, or did you?
I it was definitely the goal for 2024 was get that Olympic standard, go to the Olympics. That's every professional athlete with any aspiration probably has that goal on their calendar, especially if you're, participating, running track or marathons. That's the pinnacle of our sport. So yeah, it was the goal. Expecting it, absolutely. I expected that I would give it everything I had, but I needed to improve by 2 minutes, which for me is a big jump. In order to do it,
Hmm,
I knew I could, but it was one of those, like, because I hadn't yet. The uncertainty was, there for
right.
sure. Uh, what I think was the most special part of that whole experience, and is in relation to this podcast and what you do, is I brought my family with me to Spain, which is pretty rare, I think, amongst the professional running scene. One, to have a family. A lot of us are in my sport are bachelors, and it's not like I'm the only father in the realm. There's plenty, but it is more rare than it is common. And I think what is even more rare is to make a decision. Hey, I'm going to travel across the world, and I'm going to bring my two kids that are 2 and 6 months at the time to Spain with me as I go to run the biggest race of my life to try to qualify for the Olympics. But my calculus in all that was that, hey, I don't want to be in Spain alone. I'm a family guy. I want to be with my family. I want my wife there. My wife isn't coming without the kids. I just know her. She's not going to do that. And also, I want them there if and when I do hit this Olympic qualifier, because I want to be with them to celebrate that moment, because they are the journey. They are the reason. And yeah, it was magical. I mean, just to have that big of a day on that big of a stage, with the pressure on, with all the implications of the Olympics on the line, and then to also have them right there at the finish line, to see them right after that emotional moment, knowing that, as a professional, as this being my job, what qualifying me for the Olympics does for my career, what it does for me moving forward and for them moving forward, that was a huge motivating factor. Like, I'm sure plenty of dads listening to this, you go to work to provide for your family. You might have goals for yourself, but at the end of the day, that what you do in your career is setting your family up for years to come. And that was a pressure that I had never felt more than when I was getting ready to try to qualify for this Olympics, because a lot of these professional running contracts are based around the Olympics, and they're based around Olympic cycles. So qualifying for the Olympics is a big, big, catapult to your career, and it's very incentivized. So I was just like, man, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I was so invested bringing my family out to Spain and doing all that stuff that it kind of felt like I was just doubling down on that pressure. So when it happened, I was just, it was like the most emotional experience of my life, for sure. Other than, of course, my wedding day and the birth of my children.
Right. Well, I want to tell you, congratulations. I'm super happy for you and super proud of you for doing that. Now you are representing Canada. That's okay. We'll put that to the side. You're still going, and I think that's awesome. Having your family there is so good, because that's your support system, right? That's your lifeline, right? And it's funny when you mentioned that, for my very first marathon, my Long Beach Marathon, my boys were little at the time. Now they're older. They're 25 and 22, but they were little at the time. And I remember my wife said, I'm going to bring the boys and we're going to come out there, and we'll be there when you take off and all that. And I was like, no. I was a little nervous because it was my first one. I said, you guys don't need to do that. I don't want you to have to get up early. She's like, no, I insist. Your first one. We want to be there, blah, blah, blah. And so they were there. And so I took off. And what was cool was coming up to that finish line. I could see the finish line. You're dead tired. My very first marathon, I'm just dead, right? I just look like hell. And I'm approaching that finish line, and I see my two little boys, and they're holding signs. My wife had made signs that they're holding, that, things like "proud of you, Dad," "love you, Dad," and that just like, that hits you, man, when you have that kind of support, because that's your lifeline. That's what you're there for. That's what you do it for. And so it just brought me back to when you said that about your family being in there in Spain with you. So I think it's cool. And now, are they going to get to go? They're going to get to go to the Olympics with you, obviously.
Yeah, I won't be able to spend as much time with them before, just the nature of the Olympics, the Olympic Village, and just the focus around the event. I'll probably see them once before they're flying out separately, whereas in Spain they flew out with me. So there's some differences, but they'll definitely be there on course. And post race, we'll spend a week in Normandy together, celebrating and kind of decompressing after this big emotional build towards Paris. So it's it's going to be awesome to have them there, and I'll have a lot of extended family and friends there as well. Obviously, this is like a lot of people get really excited about the Olympics. So there'll be a lot of support, and I'm really grateful for that. And it's going to be really cool to have that experience.
Yeah, and you're represented by Puma, obviously.
Yep.
I think that's cool. Um, are you a fan of the Tour de France? Because that's going on right now.
Yeah, I'm not actively watching it. I am like I would say a casual fan of cycling, and I have a road bike. I like to get out there. I like to follow like headlines on social media, but I haven't set out the time to watch anything yet this year. But I am amazed by what they do because it is the closest parallel to running is professional cycling, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I am a huge fan of cycling, even though I don't ride myself. I'm a huge fan of the Tour de France, and I've watched it every year and I'm not kidding, like I watch every single day of it. Uh, I've been doing that now for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And I'm watching it again this year. And the funny thing is, I just tell my wife, I think it was just yesterday or day before yesterday, I'm like, man, they're going to go right from the Tour de France into the Olympics. Like boom, boom, France is. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a huge economic booster for France. But yeah, these guys are insane. I mean, just athletes, just insane athletes, because the hills that they climb, they make it look like it's so effortless. And you know they're
yeah,
dying, but the hills that they climb is just crazy. The amount of the routine they have to go through when I watch it, it's so cool to watch how they're going through the system where there's specific riders that have specific jobs, right? You got the sprinter, you got the head guy, you got the main guy, right? Who's like the guy that's supposed to win, right? There's
yeah,
all these different guys that have these. There's got the feeder guy, so he's supposed to go back to the cars and get nourishments, drinks and food and stuff like that, and then bring it up to the guys that are in the peloton. So there's all these different routines that they go through. For someone like you, that's a runner, talk about your routine. I mean, what's your daily routine for getting ready for the Olympics?
yeah. I mean, it is wild. When you're in the thick of a marathon build, it's quite a bit intensified as far as like I'm running more, I'm running a lot of volume, and 2 or 3 days a week are really intense. So they're like what we'd call workouts, interval training, marathon pace runs, that kind of stuff. But the day would look a lot like wake up, get your coffee, eat some food, head out the door for run number one. Usually there's 2 runs in a day, whether that be a workout or an easy day. There's usually two, except for on long run days for me. Um, but I go for that run, come home, eat again. That's a big part of my job is keeping it fueled. If you're going to run as much as I do, which is about 120 miles a week, so 18 miles a day on average for 7 days a week, I think is how that breaks down, or 17 miles a day, something like that. It's definitely one of those things where it's like, food is a constant. It's constantly on my brain. I do weight training 3 days a week. I get a massage at least once a week. At this point in training, when I'm at the tail end, it's twice a week at least, because I'm just trying to keep my body as healthy as can be, get ready for the final stages of training. And then at the end of every day, it wraps up usually with bedtime with my little kids, and then decompress with my wife for the hour and a half we have between putting our kids to bed and us going to bed, and then repeat it all again the next day. It's pretty cyclical, honestly. It's rinse and repeat.
Right.
It's monotonous, but it's those monotony of excellence, I think, is a cool thing. Is like you have to just kind of get get in with the details and just do a lot of the same thing over and over again, and find joy in those things and in that process.
Yeah. When I think about the routine of the day, I'm thinking specific times you're getting up, right? The amount of sleep that you're getting, the amount of nutrients you're getting, what you're eating, what you're drinking, how much you're drinking, how often you're running, how often I mean, stretching, how often you're doing the massage. I mean, all these things you're taking into consideration each and every day. Uh, are you given a guideline? Like, I know you're a professional athlete and you're kind of used to this. You've been doing it for so long, you know what you're supposed to do. But are you given like a guideline? Hey, you have to eat this many calories a day. This is the rule. You have to follow it, kind of thing, to where, hey, that's just what you're supposed to do.
That's a pretty common question, actually. A lot of people think and ask me about my diet and how strict it is, what I try to eat, what I try not to eat. And I wish I could give you an answer that was really hardcore, but no, it's really just intuition, right? It's like, oh, what I crave, what do I need? Like just trying to be as consistent as possible. I don't think you can be that picky and that specific when you're talking about marathon training, because you're burning so hot and so
Hmm.
bright, like it's almost like you got to kind of just whatever sounds good, you got to eat it, because you're battling this thing of appetite and calorie consumption and calories burned. You don't want to be in a calorie deficit,
Right.
so you err on the side of eating too much. And what I'll often do is, throughout the day, because I've got two training runs, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, I'm not able to eat that much in between the two. I do eat frequently just to kind of keep myself topped off. I'll have probably, two breakfasts is pretty common, a lunch, and then I second run. And what I think I do to kind of top everything off and dial everything in, most common, is to eat a dinner with my family, put the kids to bed, and then eat again. That's kind of, and it's not necessarily anything special. Sometimes it's a bowl of cereal, sometimes it's leftovers, sometimes it's, takeout or something. I'll just go get something else. But whatever sounds good, because you have to follow those cravings. A lot of times those are intuitive, and those are telling you what you might be lacking: something savory, something sweet, something high in protein, whatever it is. I like to just be as intuitive as I can with it, and trust that my body knows what it needs. And that's gotten me pretty far so far. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's other areas of my life that are a little bit more regimented, but like I'm pretty consistent with sleep. I go to bed around the same time, wake up around the same time most days, with variation of very little. And it's, 8 hours a night is the golden standard for most people, I think. And I'm pretty much the same. So I wish I could say I sleep 9 hours a night, but I don't even know how that would work with everything that's going on in my life. So yeah, it's just consistency.
Yeah. You're right as far as calories, getting the calories, getting the carbs, especially. My running coach has told me, there's been certain days where I hit these runs, and I'll text him afterwards, and send him my stats and all that stuff. And I tell him, hey, it just happened this last week. I told him, this was not a good run. I just died out at this mile. I don't know what's going on. I think it's the heat. I was just trying to make up every excuse I could think of. And he said, something tells me you didn't get enough carbs yesterday. How many carbs are you eating a day? And I said, you know what? I didn't eat very many carbs yesterday. And he said, well, there's your problem. So he has like a specific, like I have to eat almost 500 carbs a day in order to maintain the running that I'm doing. And I can imagine, for me, I'm not running that many miles a day, right? But I'm doing 500. I mean, you've got to be eating three times that.
Oh, I would guess at least. I don't know. I don't track it, but I would say I don't have a meal without some carbs. So every meal is carb focused. Whether it be a bed of rice, something's on, or noodles or whatnot, or whatever it is, potatoes. Those are in almost every meal, just to kind of keep things,
Yeah.
yeah, topped off. So bread, pasta, rice, potatoes. Those are like
Yeah.
the staples of a runner. Um, and yeah, that's pretty consistent, and especially when we're talking race day and big things like those are the details that get more dialed up once we get closer to the big one.
Right. Wow. Well, I'm impressed, man. I want to ask you, when it comes to your family, though, you've got two little kids, a boy and a girl. Do they understand what you do? Do they know what it's about, and do they understand this big thing called the Olympics? I mean, do they realize how big this is, how monumental this is for you guys?
Yeah, my son, my older kid, he's only 3 this summer, but he is kind of getting it a little bit. He knows we're going to Paris. He talks about that every now and then because we've told him. he knows I go for a run all the time. He's hilarious. He actually, picked it up from my wife. She always, I get home from a run and she'll say, "Oh, how was your run?" And then I answer. So he started every time I come in the door, "How was your run, Dad?" It's so funny. It's the cutest thing ever. And I'll say good. And it's just one of those things where he knows I run. He actually runs around like crazy. People joke in our neighborhood because he never goes anywhere walking. He's always running somewhere. So he's pretty, full of energy and kind of cut from the same cloth in that regard. But yeah, I think he's starting to comprehend like that's what I do. I try to tell him I'm going to work when I go for runs just as a joke, because it is my job. But
Right.
yeah, he's funny. Like if he doesn't want me to leave or something, I'll go. I'll be like, "I gotta go for a run." He's like, "Ah, it's closed." I'm like, "Ah, that's not really how it works." Like, because we tell him if he wants to go to the store that it's closed or
Eh,
something. So he's funny. He's figuring things out. He's a pretty smart little kid, but at his age, I don't think he'll fully comprehend the gravity of which making the Olympics is all about. But maybe I'll make the next one, and then he can be 7 years old almost, and I think he'll understand quite a bit more.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. How cute is that? That's awesome. Um, yeah, being a professional runner, especially getting ready to go over to France to participate in, I mean, to participate in the Olympics, how do you balance the demands of not only your job, right, your training, but also being an involved dad because your kids are little and this is a vital time for you to be in part of their lives and really start to build that bond with them because when they get older, if that bond's not strong, it's not going to be strong when they're older. And so you have to really start to build that when they're young. This is a vital time for you to be around them as much as possible and interacting with them as much as possible. So how do you, I'm sure there's a way, but how do you balance it? How do you and your wife balance it to where you're able to be active with your kids?
Yeah, so I think anyone with small kids, I don't know why this is the way it is, but like dads are always the source of play and fun. I think, my wife never gets asked to go play outside, but I get asked 10 times a day. The nature of what I do is, demanding physically. There's a lot of things. I have to travel a lot. I have to, leave the house a lot, but I would say on like a regular basis, I'm home throughout the day quite a bit. So I get to spend quite a bit of time with, especially my son. Again, I'm going to single him out because he's the older one and he's the one that's got all these ideas of things to do and all that stuff. And he's a total, active, fun, outdoors boy. So the biggest struggle and something that I have to consolidate with is like energy output that I have left, with the demands of my training. Um, and I just say this, like, I'm never going to not hang out with my kid when he wants to because I'm tired because I ran 20 miles
Mm,
that morning. Like I'll usually like try to sit down, while we're playing outside or something. So I'm not running around. But, if he really wants to play, something that he's really into right now would be like he likes to hit a ball like off a tee or stuff like that. And that involves chasing the ball, getting it, putting it back on, that kind of stuff, back and forth and back and forth. And, he's got all these interests and stuff. I'm not going to say no. I refuse to not do those things and not have that be a part of it. And, yeah, I think it's important to me and it's a priority. And I don't think it's detracted from my running. It's funny. I I'm in easily the most stressful moment of my life to this point with two kids this young, a 3-year old and a
mhm.
1-year old. Never have I felt more consistently stressed and overwhelmed and overstimulated and all the things that come with this, but also never have I run better than I am right now. It
Mm.
doesn't even make sense, right? Like with you would think with all that's going on that it'd be a distraction, it would be a deterrent, but I'm consistently improving with this stage of life, and I'm getting better and better at what I do. And I attribute that just to them being such a source of motivation and joy and uplifting. Yeah, it's really remarkable, because if you just look at it at face value, my life's gotten harder. My energy is being drawn in different directions. And it seems like I should be less focused on the task because I've got so many things pulling me in other directions. But I've just gotten better and better with this stage of life. So I
That's cool.
think it's really cool, and it's been really awesome. And I take a lot of pride in being a very active participant in the house, and specifically just being a fun dad, just trying to be as fun and as participatory as possible in everything and anything that I can. And yeah, honestly, it's been really cool. It's been a really cool experience for me.
Awesome. Well, I have two boys. They're grown. Like I said, they're 25 and 22. You have two young kids, so you're a newbie dad. I like to say I'm a parent that's, I've been around the block a little bit as a parent goes, right? And so if there's any help, any guidance, any support that you need from me, when we're done here, I'm gonna give you my cell so we can stay in touch. But I want you to make sure you reach out to me, because I would love to be able to help you as a new dad, help raise those kids. I do want to ask you one more question. I'm gonna let you go because I know you got things you got to do today. When it comes to your running and your kids, is there any lessons that you've learned from professional running that you hope to maybe pass on to your kids?
Yeah, I mean, when you ask that question, one thing comes to mind immediately. It's just to work for something. It's to see things through. It's to pour your heart and soul into your passions. It's to work really hard for things. And I hope that I'm doing this long enough that my kids remember seeing what I go through on a daily basis, seeing the process, seeing the heartbreak, seeing the momentous occasions where things go really, really well, and get to learn, like, hey, the pursuit of excellence, the pursuit of your dreams is full of boring, hard, long days, and also really, really sad, heartbreaking, falling short moments, but then
Mm-hmm.
also just triumphant elation, all the good things and all the bad. I hope to continue to bring them to as many marathons that I do, and as many, training camps. I took them to Park City this summer, Park City, Utah, to train for 2 weeks. They come to my workouts occasionally and see me do my thing. And yeah, I just hope that they are encouraged to chase their dreams more than anything, because it hasn't always been easy to be a pursuing professional runner. There's not exactly, it's the entry level of professional running is low, and then you can kind of climb the totem pole fast if you have success. And I started at the bottom, and I'm starting to get closer and closer to the top. Making the Olympics has catapulted me, like I said earlier. And yeah, I just hope that they can kind of see that process play out, and I can share that journey with them and share my lessons with them as they age.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that one of the most important things that you're teaching them right now, like you said, is to go after things that you're passionate about, to go after goals and try to reach your dreams and accomplish the goals that you have in your life. But one of the most important things that you're teaching your kids right now is never to give up. It's that constant battle of never giving up, never giving in, always going after it, never giving up. And no matter how tough things get, you're always going to keep going. And your kids are going to face things in their lives where they're going to be stuck, and they're going to feel like the world's crashing in on them, but they're going to see what their dad has done, and the things that he's gone through, and the struggles that he's went through, and the pain that he's gone through, and yet he kept going. And that's one of the lessons that you're teaching them, that hey, it's okay to have these struggles, it's okay to have these pains, it's okay to fall down, but the important thing is that you get up and you keep going. That's what you want. That's what I hope that your kids get out of this as well. That's awesome. Um, I'm going to let you go, but I want to give you an opportunity. When do you leave when you head out?
So I go to Europe. I go to Barcelona first for a holding camp, July 26th. I race on August 10th. So I'll spend a few days in Barcelona, kind of getting acclimated to the time zone, the weather, yada yada yada, and then I'll skip over to Paris, hit the Olympic Village, get ready for my race, and then stay over in Europe for another week.
Oh, that's cool. So August 10th, you race.
Yep.
What's I'm sure obviously the goal is a gold, but I mean, is there a certain time you're looking for? Is there a certain, one thing you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so this course is exceptionally difficult. It's like a super, super hilly marathon course.
Mm.
So time will be hard to quantify, and summer marathons are tricky because you're usually running in the heat. And as you know, you don't run as fast when it's hot outside. So uh for me, I want the Olympics to just be the best execution of a race I've ever had. So that means, reading the signs of your body, finding that line, managing the highs and lows of a race, and just executing. I find a well executed marathon is so satisfying, regardless of time, place, result, because hey, I did everything I could well out there. I fueled properly, I paced properly, I competed hard, all the way to the line. And if I can do all those things, I think I can do something really, really good and spectacular because the training's gone well and I'm healthy and I'm ready to go. But yeah, I just want to execute. I want to finish that marathon and be like, at the biggest stage of my career, I ran the best marathon I've ever run. And, I'm not the favorite. I'm happy to be there. That's the truth. But I'm also going to be, you know, going out there trying to give it my absolute best on that day.
Yeah, you're going to be a fierce competitor. I guarantee you that. Well, I can tell you this, even though I'm US all the way, you have a huge fan in me. So I will be rooting and cheering for you when you get up for your race. And I'm praying for not only a successful race, but a healthy race, a race that keeps you safe, no injuries, things like that. So I'll continue to think about you and pray for you guys and pray for your family, make sure they're okay over there. But you got a fan in me, and I'm going to continue following your journey because I'm excited to see where it takes you. But Roy, I want to give you an opportunity to tell my listeners, viewers, if they want to learn any more about you. Where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah. So at the beginning of my journey to try to qualify for the Olympics, I started a YouTube channel where I have been sharing long form content about my training and my life outside of training. My family's featured in a lot of that as well. And I think that that's been a really cool way to show who I am and show a little bit more about myself. And I've been doing that regularly. So that's one that I've been really trying to push and promote. So go check out my YouTube. It's just Rory Linkletter. So yeah, it should be super easy to find. And then on Instagram, I'm pretty frequent with my posting, and I just do whatever I can to update people on my races and my schedule. And that's definitely my most active social media platform. And if you're a fellow runner, check me out on Strava. That's you know
Oh,
what I
I'm
mean?
on
That's kind of
Strava. I'm on
there we
Strava.
go.
I'm gonna hook
Yeah.
you. I'm
So
gonna link up with you. Cool. I didn't know you're on Strava. I'm on Strava.
yeah,
Awesome.
Strava's my favorite.
Okay, cool. I use that too. Awesome. Well, Roy, listen, man, so good to meet you. I'm really excited to watch your journey, and I'm really excited to see how, what you're going to or about to accomplish. So kudos to you, and I'm looking forward to continuing our friendship. I really am. I think it's going to be awesome. And like I said, we're going to be in Flagstaff, so hopefully I get a chance to pop in and say hello to you before we head out. But thank you again for being on, brother. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. Talk to you later. And I hope your listeners enjoy this. And yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been an honor.
Listen, guys, it's been another episode of Dad Up. I want to give a good thanks again to my good friend Rory Linkletter. make sure you guys watch him in the Olympics. He's about to head out there. He's going to be racing on August 10th. But listen, if you want to learn anything more about him, you can go check out his YouTube channel. I have seen some of his videos. They're really good. They're really informative. Gives you kind of a backstory of kind of how he goes about his training. You can follow him on Instagram. He is very active on there. That's how I got a hold of him. So he'll answer any questions. If you got specific questions about running, make sure you ask him. He'll answer your questions. If you send him a weird question, he's not going to answer that. But if you send him a good question about running, he'll make sure to answer that. And as always, if you have not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.